What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from ActiveMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're doing the 20th anniversary of The Terminal. This is directed by Steven Spielberg, so yeah, if you haven't seen it, maybe that would be a reason to. It also has audio description, although it's leaving at the end of October, and this has nothing to do with Halloween, so you're going to see it afterwards. So it's no longer on Netflix. But look for it because it does have an existing audio description track when it appears again somewhere. If it appears somewhere without audio description, just be very angry and be like, this movie has an existing audio description track. Why aren't you using it? This is this is Tom Hanks and Catherine Zeta-Jones, Stanley Tucci, Zoe Saldana, Diego Luna, Chi McBride, just like a host of interesting names and personalities for this. And I was sitting here thinking about this movie because last January, last January, the last January that happened, I reviewed films based on like a past performance from an Oscar nominee that was also in a film. And I tried to make them all something that had audio description. And so I picked some really interesting films. Like Emma Stone was like the house bunny, it was like something that was out there that had audio description. But I was like, man, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot here because Zoe Saldana is definitely getting an Oscar nomination this year for Emilia Perez. Like, she's right now the front runner, and she's been in the industry long enough now that I think even if she slips and doesn't stay front runner status, I think I don't see her slipping out of the nomination category for Emilia Perez, which seems to be a strong enough contender. The question is whether or not Selena Gomez can stay in that category, but I think Zoe is pretty much a lock at this point. I think it would be hard for her to lose that status. So I think she, after all these years, is going to get a nomination. But Stanley Tucci might also for Conclave. So, and I suppose as an outside chance, we might all be sleeping on Here, which was supposed to be at AFI Fest. I haven't heard anything yet, so maybe he's amazing in Here and he gets a nomination. He sleeks in, what's up, guys? I'm Tom Hanks. This is my umpteenth nomination that I'm not going to win for because apparently nobody wants me to have 3 Oscars. That's the future of Emma Stone, by the way, is everything from now on she will just be nominated for and she won't win. It's the Tom Hanks curse. It's like, good luck getting that 3rd win. Somehow Frances McDormand managed it, but it's really hard to win 3 Oscars. So anyway, so The Terminal is a movie I really enjoy, and so I was actually really happy to dive down this. I've definitely done some anniversary releases of some really shitty movies, and I've always asked the question, like, does it stand the test of time? And the answer here is yes. The answer here is there will always be people who are interested in Spielberg's filmography that will be watching The Terminal. And I think, especially considering I've also done an anniversary video for Always, that I think when you think about The Terminal, I think it's more beloved and well-remembered over something like Always. So if people are trying to pick up on Spielberg things, it's like, well, this has Tom Hanks, so it's definitely aged well. Always has Richard Dreyfuss, who is bitching about not being able to play Othello. So, I mean, like, those are 2 totally different things. It's like, well, which actor has turned out to be more beloved over the years? Well, Tom Hanks is still on top. So, I think more people are going to gravitate towards that. And it has a cast that, again, while they were not massive stars at the time, it's all panned out well for them. So, banking on the talents of Zoe Saldana, Diego Luna, Stanley Tucci at the time when they were still supporting performers and not really lead actors, really helped. And they all got to work with Spielberg and got that experience, and they're part of this ensemble, which just sort of makes it more interesting. Catherine Zeta-Jones obviously offers something, but she's not the main draw here. It has a unique enough premise. This is the terminals, that the one movie you've heard about where the guy lives in an airport for an extended period of time. He comes from Krakozia, a fake country that is in the middle of political upheaval at the wrong time for him. And the funny thing is, when you see how simplistic it is, like all he wanted to do in New York, the one thing, it was just like he was fulfilling this one thing. It's just like a very simple thing. Like he didn't have, he wasn't trying to move here. And I think about how now we're all about the immigrants in this country. They're coming here, and it's like we made this 20 years ago. And here's this dude. He just wants to come here and see this one dude and get his signature, and like just move on with his life. Like that's it. And we're so uptight about everything nowadays, and we think about the way that immigration works. Of course, some would say he wouldn't have a problem because he's not trying to come from a certain area, and he also doesn't have the certain skin color that we seem to have a problem with. So, I mean, like there are a whole different host of problems that when people are screaming about immigration, they really mean, but they're not actually saying. They don't mean, please stop the people from countries like fake Krakozia from coming here. They mean a very specific subset of people that they would like to see less of, which is really sad. It's very xenophobic, but to see that sort of juxtaposition 20 years later, and to see here, at least it feels like somebody's just following paperwork, but it's like the most like it's like the worst way to do this is to just like be like, well, we can't send you back, and you can't officially go to America, so you're stuck in this gate like no man's land. Which is ridiculous. And they think that he's going to try to make a run for the door and run out into New York, and they're going to just be able to arrest him. But no, he actually follows the rules. So Stanley Tucci becomes increasingly angry that this dude is following the rules. And again, I'm like, this is like really like a pro-immigration movie, because this dude is doing everything he's actually asked of to do. And he's being really helpful and kind and generous when nobody has really been that to him at this point. We've kind of just said, screw you. You're trapped. We're really hoping we can arrest you. That would be great. For no reason whatsoever. He's not a criminal. He's not there for crime. And when you get to the end of the film and you realize the only thing he was really there to do was kind of silly. But it meant something to him, and it was like fulfilling a promise. And that was important. And it really goes to support his character of this person. And but everybody just addresses him as, you know, just because he doesn't speak the way that everybody else speaks, oh, there must be something wrong here. There must be something nefarious. There's something that we're not seeing. There's something wrong about him, about a man that would actually follow the rules and sit here and would sleep in a terminal and wait for the green light, wait for an official green light before going. And not try to change the rules of the system. And it's kind of great. It's kind of a great movie. I kind of love this movie. I already love this movie, but I was watching this movie again for the purpose of the 20th anniversary, and it was the first time with audio description. And I just really love this movie. I've seen it like a handful of times. I don't want to say it a bunch. It's probably my fifth time seeing this film. It's just such an easy watch. It's a breezy watch to get through, and very lighthearted, just kind. Stanley Tucci's character just does not come out very well. He just looks like an ass all the time, and then finally at the end, he just kind of has to give up and be like, "Well, you win," you know, like. I mean, like, how much does he really want to fight? He got the job he wanted. Like, who cares? And then you realize all of it was just kind of simplistic and really didn't matter. All the bullshit could have just been, if anybody had ever just stopped to be like, what is it that you actually are here to do? Like, what is it, why, you know, everybody's talking about this peanut can that he's carrying around. And it's like, well, if you just I don't know. And Catherine Zeta-Jones finally sits down and gets him to open up about it, and it's really easy. It's hard for him to explain because he doesn't have full use of the English language. And for Tom Hanks, who has full use of the English language, I thought he did a really good job here, uh, pretending to be somebody who doesn't. Um, and eh, you could say it's a goofy performance, but I don't know, it's just it's a really well-rounded character, and it's a well-rounded performance, and he's really emotionally connected to the performance. And I don't know what else you could not want for this film. Um, of course, he worked almost back to back with Steven Spielberg here, with Steven Spielberg doing Catch Me If You Can and then The Terminal. So, which I think actually is back to back. But I don't know how they were shot, in terms of, because he also, in the same year he released Catch Me If You Can, we also had like Minority Report. So, like, there was a while there where Spielberg just cranked out. It's just cranking the films. Um, what was shot where at what time, and post production, and he got like 3 movies out in like a 12-month span, which is, you don't see Spielberg doing that much anymore. So, yeah, it's and this is post 9/11 too, and it's in New York, and for all of the post 9/11 stuff we were getting, this feels also like a breath of fresh air, because this is only like 3 years removed from 9/11. This should be like some sort of like 9/11 nightmare, where like you live in some sort of like TSA hellscape where, you're the amount of liquids that you can take on planes and everything is being measured, but they don't really focus on that. Like, this is just, it feels like an airport that could have been pre 9/11. Like, this whole film feels like it could have been something that happened at any point during aviation history in America. It's just we have some basic rules about like when you're flying in from another country, and some silly rules about things like medications, which this film deals with. Um, and I felt for that guy too. I mean, that makes the rules look dumb, because he's basically in a layover, and he's meant to fly to Canada. He's on his way to Canada, but he has to stop in America and then take another flight to Canada. And suddenly he's beholden to the rules of America. And it's like, he's not trying to cross into America. He's trying to cross into Canada. So, like, if this is considered to be, this is one of the things I don't fully understand about this movie, is it's like, if Tom Hanks is living in no man's land, and this dude's in no man's land, where like the rules are just, well, you're not in the United States technically yet until you walk out those doors. Then he hasn't walked out those doors, so what does it matter what his medications he's taking? He's just trying to get it to a connecting flight so that he can get to Canada, and you're stopping him with this nonsense. So, very sort of interesting film, and to see where it is today. And I think about, so Spielberg chooses to make this in response to 9/11, maybe, or I don't know, immigration. It's always interesting to think about why a filmmaker makes something. Like, why do they choose it? What inherently brought him to this project? He saw something in Minority Report and he went with that, and then he saw something in Catch Me If You Can and he went with that. And he saw something in The Terminal, and he saw something in The Terminal at a time when I think the world needed something like The Terminal. Because we were about to be inundated with a whole bunch of films about people like remembering their 9/11 victims, and we had like United 93 and World Trade Center, and just like sort of like how to interpret this tragedy through cinema, Fahrenheit 9/11, stuff like that. So, and then here's just this, it's sort of inconsequential dramedy that is probably something that Oscar voters looked at, and they were just like, no, this doesn't feel serious enough for us. And it's like, it's not about feeling serious enough for it. And so that's the thing we've always, I think, missed the boat on, is for some reason we're always looking for the most serious performance, the most acting. Our idea of what should be lauded is always like the most crying, or the the biggest transformation. You can never do like small moments. It can never just be those like somebody playing like a regular person in a film that isn't deeply depressing, you know. It just these film performances like this just get lost. Tom Hanks is really good at this, and the Terminal is absolutely worth watching. I thought the audio description was really good. Of course, I've seen the film a bunch of times, and so really, I just thought it brought back everything that I remembered, and sort of like the little details of like what he's looking at, and sort of in like the silent moments. Um, a lot of like non-verbal cues, like the janitor with the wet floor, that whole thing, and the sign, and he finds it funny that people don't read the sign and they keep slipping and falling, and basically, he's like, well, the sign's up, I mean, he could go more out of his way to like keep people away from the wet floor, but it's like if they don't see the wet floor sign, then that's on them. But there's also the scene where he's trying to get the job at Discovery. Man, can people remember when things like that existed inside of like airports? And he's sitting there just kind of like staring at the phone, but he also like really has to pee. And this is just like the audio description is like capturing him in that moment while staring at the phone, then staring at the bathroom, then staring at the phone, then staring at the bathroom. So yeah, there are a lot of like really sort of nice moments in here that work rather well, and very like specific wardrobe choices. Like he's like, well, I live in the airport, so I'm just gonna put on my bathrobe to go to the bathroom in the morning, the airport bathroom, and wash up. And it's silly, but it's kind. It's kind, and it's warm, and it's just a happy film to watch. And in a day and age when people are choosing, the reality is I'm recording this because I saw this in October on Netflix when it's leaving the month, and I'm telling you, I'm not going to release this into November. Probably the election has happened, and we either made the right choice or we didn't. And everybody's yelling about immigration, and everybody's mad about immigration, and it just feels like we're so hypersensitive because the media has fueled something, and I think we forget that so many people came here for the promise of a better life, or the promise of America's greatness, and the promise of what it could offer, and the promise of something as simple as jazz, the promise of just sitting down and being able to sit somewhere and just talk to a musician for a few seconds, just visit New York, this city, and honor something that your father wanted you to honor. And that was like your father's wish, was to, collect the signatures of these favorite musicians of his. And he's completed that with this journey that he's on. So it's just a really nice movie. And we could use a little bit more kindness in life. And I think this film, oddly enough, 20 years later, is still preaching that and teaching that. Because I don't think anybody looks at Stanley Tucci's character and goes, damn right, don't let those in. It's really hard to do that, because pretty much like the whole film positions him as like being an asshole. If you relate with Stanley Tucci, there's a problem. Like, he's not the character that, because even when he's trying to, quote, help him out, he's not trying to help him out. He's trying to get him to get arrested, is what he's trying to do. He's trying to get him to get out the door. Like, he's like, I'll have the guards step away from the door. But he's really also watching him for that moment, so that when, I guess, so that he can, because he thinks that, nobody will believe Tom Hanks, right? Nobody will believe. So if he goes out the door and he says, but so he said I could go. Not really. So, yeah, hopefully nobody relates with Stanley Tucci's character and is like, well, he's just doing the job. Like, he's kind of just not doing his. He's kind of, there's doing your job, and then there's being a little bit of a control freak about it, and you could do one or the other. So, yeah, It's I like it. I think you should watch it. I'm gonna give The Terminal an A. Uh, I want to take it to a desert island, but then I feel like I'd have too many Spielberg and Tom Hanks movies. It's really close to having that status, though. I realized how happy it made me after having not watched it for a period of time, and I'm sitting down. I'm like trying to like nitpick. I'm like, what would I change? And not much. And maybe it's a film that just ages better. Maybe it's, I don't remember this being my favorite film of 2004, but at the same time, maybe it's just because of how angry we've become to see a film that has just such a positive take on everything. And then to realize how close this was to 9/11 and how far away we are from 9/11. Yet we seem to be more angry about immigration now than we were back then. So, to see that something as simple as this could be made at that time and work, uh, it just is nice. So, anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I'll see you guys on the other side.